So what we're seeing here from Nietzsche, right, is a criticism of this figure Socrates, right? He claims that, well, Socrates was needed, right? There was a very specific cultural problem that Socrates was trying to meet with his methods. Everywhere, everybody's passions were in a state of disarray. Everybody's fabulously wealthy overnight. And what's the natural sort of expression of that kind of wealth? Decadence, right? You want it, you got it, right? Greece was a trading town, or Athens was a trading town. They had a wonderful navy, right? And basically, if it was available in the Western world, you could find it in the Agora at Athens, right? So it's no surprise that Socrates picked the Agora, the public space, the market square, right, as the place where he would, in a sense, right, bring his solution to the problem of decadent passion, since that place itself represents everything that is so decadent in the passions in the first place. Right? If you can't control your passions, you have to develop your faculty of reason, right, which can then oppose and play tyrant to the passions. Right? Now, as I said a second ago, right, Nietzsche and Hobbes have a lot in common. Right? Nietzsche, right, with his romantic naturalism, sees us as primarily desirous bodies, right, in sort of this chaotic relationship with the natural world. Right? One of the ways that we survive is through spirit, right, through how we care and give value to things. Right? Another way that we survive is through the use of reason, right, which Nietzsche takes to be a tool of the passions. Right? Reason is that tool that we use to get what we want. Right? Or the simple way to put this, if you're going to come to know about anything, right, if you are going to come to any sort of new understanding, the first thing you have to do is give a damn, right? You have to care, right? So reason evolves, and reason is deployed to help get us what we want. That's what it's good for, right? So now if we take a look at Socrates' solution, right, reason must play tyrant over the passions. Why would it fail? Well, if reason is a tool of the passions, basically a distilled version of these passions, reason then cannot be used to control the passions because, what? Reason's a passion, right? Reason is the tool of those passions. Reason is controlled by those passions, right? So right off the bat, what Nietzsche has done here, right, is criticize the foundations of everything that I've taught you in this class. He's turned it on its head, right? He starts off by claiming that the value of life cannot be estimated, right? But, right, that when we give the world value, right, what we do is we judge it to be valuable or not, right? So really, right, what we're revealing when we talk about the value of life is a psychological and physiological disposition, right, to life, and not anything that's what we would come to see as an objective rational truth, right? And then Nietzsche moves on to the case of Socrates, that beginning point of Western philosophy, right? And he criticizes in Socrates the very presupposition that we've seen throughout most of the figures in this course, right? From Socrates to Plato to Aristotle to Hobbes. All of these figures have said that reason must in some way, shape, or form control the passions. Right? In Plato, we find that desire, right, is the problem, and it's going to be reason and self-control that control desire. Right? Aristotle saw us like those dogs with the conflicting passions, right? And our function, right? Our distinctive human function for Aristotle was to use reason to sort out these passions, to, in a sense, control the passions, to impose moderation. Again, in Hobbes, right, reason, even as a tool of the passions, has to, in a sense, overcome the passions in order to get us into a state of peace, right? So we have to, in a sense, use reason to reveal our self-interest, which runs directly counter to our natural instincts and general inclinations, this restless and ceaseless desire for power after power that ceases only in death, right? So what we see is that in each of these cases, reason to some extent controls the passions, right? But it can't, as Nietzsche, just in this very brief argument, points out to us. Now, in the next section that we're going to turn to here, Reason in Philosophy, Nietzsche is going to present us with two idiosyncrasies, two related idiosyncrasies that we've already seen in philosophers, right? And what he's going to do in each case is debunk them, right? And reveal further why he thinks something is, in a sense, rotten in Denmark with regard to Western philosophy, right? Something at its very core is, by Nietzsche's estimation, corrupt, right? So what Nietzsche's going to do by knocking down each of these two idiosyncrasies, the first is to distrust the senses, and the second, he tells us, consists in confusing the last and the first, right? So as he debunks these two theoretical ways of looking things, what he's doing is he's developing his own position in criticism of everything that's come before, right? Now, I will be skipping one section here, how the true world finally became a fable. It's a very short, very dense, very confusing section in which what Nietzsche does is create sort of a new narrative to explain, right, the dialogue that Western philosophy over the past 2,400 years has gotten into, right? So I'm going to be jumping over that section because, to an extent, the argument is present in Reason and Philosophy. Right? And then after that, we're going to turn to Nietzsche's moral prescriptions, where again he becomes critical of a very Platonic and very Christian way of turning against nature with their morality. And what he's going to do is paint us a picture of what he would call a naturalism in morality, or a healthy morality in its place. Right? Now, I just want to pause for a second. There's a sense in which reading Nietzsche is a bit of a paradox, right? And it's very, very tempting to take any one of Nietzsche's fiery claims out of context. It happens all the time, right? Even the big-name theorists, to some extent, falter and do this, right? The trick with Nietzsche is that his position, much like Kierkegaard, is one in which, right, we have to think hard, right? We have to spend a lot of time, energy, and effort thinking about our presuppositions in order to truly understand them, in order to develop the passion that we need to have if we are going to call our values values at all, right? If they're going to be valuable to us. So what Nietzsche does is he employs a fairly sophisticated kind of grammar, of a fairly sophisticated style, in order to, in a sense, demand of his reader, right, a lot of deep thought. There's a lot of puzzles and paradoxes that we find within Nietzsche that coax us to think more about the criticisms that he's offering, right? And what's more, quite often he takes on sort of a sarcastic or ironic tone himself, right? To, in a sense, criticize a position. So a lot of his claims aren't even claims that he's making, right? He is making claims the way I would say, well, so-and-so might argue this, and I present sort of a cartoon of the argument, Okay? So that's in many cases